Hello everyone and welcome to No Frontiers Japan. Right now we're doing another instant reaction to episode 6 of One Piece's live action. It's called The Chef and the Chore Boy. Now stick around because I really need your help right now. If you're very familiar with One Piece's story, then you'll know the end of this episode comes with one of those big iconic moments, and I have a very strong opinion about that. But there's a few things that happen in this episode, and especially in the light of the previous episode, which I thought was a home run episode. This episode, I have a lot of mixed feelings, and I haven't completely made up my mind, but there's a lot of stuff I'm not so crazy about, but I really need your opinions. Am I wrong? Do you feel completely differently? Please tell me. So I'm just going to get into it right now. Very first scene, we have Zoro on the table. We know in the previous episode he was injured by Mihawk. Nami asks Luffy, go to Baratie. Obviously to get help, he misunderstands it. He thinks she's asking him to go eat, and he says, Nami, I'm not really hungry right now. But you can see on his face that he's obviously really concerned and bothered by the situation. Now, normal Luffy is kind of a little bit too here and there and oblivious about if someone's injured, he's just going to find the solution, but he doesn't wear it on his face, and he definitely doesn't dwell on the past. He just moves forward to find a solution in his own way. So I'm just wondering, to me that felt really wrong that Iñaki Godoy just seems to be so concerned. The darkness on the face is just not something I'm used to seeing from Luffy. Do you agree? Do you agree that Luffy would be so worried in this situation? Or would he just be positive, almost like oblivious to the actual seriousness of the situation? For me, I don't think I like it, even though I think Iñaki Godoy, he's doing a great job with Luffy. How much better of a job can someone be expected to do? But still, I don't know. Do you have a totally different opinion? Let me know in the comments. Okay, so then Luffy runs off to the kitchen, obviously to recruit Zeph's help. Sanji comes as well. The goal is to help Zoro. I like that we're bringing Zeph in a bit more. Like I mentioned, he's a great character. We don't see enough of him. So seeing this moment where he's using this old fisherman's trick or this old sailor's trick, whatever he called it, with putting the fish skin on Zoro's wound to help him heal, I thought that was really nice. I like that moment. I'm good with it, and kind of bring the alcohol, but for drinking, not for sterilization. I think that was good. And after that, what I really did like is we had the scene with Mihawk and Garp. And this was a good scene because Mihawk's obviously telling Garp that he does whatever he wants and he's not beholden to the rules of the Marines, of the Navy. He does whatever he wants. That's the freedom he has as a Shichibukai, which is completely correct. So that was great for them to establish that, because viewers of just the live action, they won't understand the dynamics, and especially how the Shichibukai can kind of just have free reign to be pirates and to do criminal acts in many cases without any kind of repercussions. They're free. They have carte blanche to basically be bad guys up to a certain point. So of course Garp has found out that Mihawk won't bring him in, and Garp goes into this rage, which I really love. I wasn't so big of a fan of Garp at the beginning. He was a little bit too stoic, a little bit too cool. Garp's never been like a cool guy, even though people admire him. It's not because he's so cool. And he goes into this rage, but the rage where we saw him at the beginning of the last episode, where he's angry, but then also he's maniacally laughing. That I really love. That really screams to me Garp. And then there was this small little detail I loved as he smashed the table, and then the camera pans into his captain's quarter where the table is smashed. And of course he had the Denden Mushi, the snail telephone, which was on the table. And if you actually look closely, you can see that the snail telephone, it's still stuck on the table as a snail would, but it has slid down. There's actually a little slime trail. I thought that was a really nice detail that the show has added. The show has added many, many nice details, so I'm definitely looking forward to a rewatch, because I think a lot of time and effort has obviously gone into the show compared to, say, something like the live action of Attack on Titan. Our next big moment in the story, well, I really want to hear your opinion on this. I'm extremely curious, especially if you haven't read the manga or watched the anime. If this is your first time seeing One Piece, I'm curious what you would prefer as the outcome here. So the moment I'm talking about, and this is a famous moment in One Piece, is when Sanji as a child meets Zeph for the first time. Of course, Sanji's been raided by Zeph. Zeph is a pirate, or was a pirate at that time. There's a giant storm. The ship sinks, and then they are marooned, I guess because of the big waves. It pushed them up onto this, basically this barren rock that's just sitting above. There's no trees, there's no shade. They literally sit for 85 days stranded on this rock. Now at the beginning of them being stranded, Zeph didn't know how long they're going to be stranded for. It could be a few hours, could be a few days. He didn't probably expect that it would be almost 3 months, but he still rationed the food Well, as we find out later, gave all of the food to Sanji and just kept his looted treasure in another bag. But of course, young Sanji never knew that. Young Sanji rationed his food. He survived 85 days, which was incredibly impressive. So then once he goes back, because he's just dying of hunger, after he's eaten all his food, he goes back, which is pretty mature for a young boy to survive that long. He goes back and he finds out that Zeph never had any food. He gave it all to Sanji. And this is such an incredible, heartwarming moment. Now here is where I really want to get your opinion, because there's two different stories that we have. That's four. There's two different stories that we have. So the first story is from the manga. And in the manga, it's the same as in the live action, where you actually find out that Zeph has eaten his leg so he can survive, that he can stay alive, and also to give Sanji the chance of living. And the reason for that is, of course, because he found out on the ship during the raid that Sanji has the same dream of finding the All Blue. I love that about One Piece, and I like they're bringing that to the live action. It's really about everyone has their dream. Zoro, greatest swordsman. Luffy, find the One Piece, become the Pirate King. And Sanji wants to find the All Blue, this legendary sea where you can find all these fish from all four seas in this one location. A cook's dream. Now the second version of that scene is actually from the anime, and it doesn't involve Zeph actually eating his own leg. He actually survives with no food for this amount of days, so I can understand why they maybe went with the first option. It's a bit less realistic. But what actually happened was when he lost his leg, he lost it during the storm. So as the storm was sinking the ships, Sanji was drowning, and so Zeph actually swam down to save Sanji, and as he did, a chain got wrapped around Zeph's leg and separated the leg from his body, and so he actually lost his leg in order to save Sanji, which was a really nice moment. So that's one element of him saving Sanji a couple times compared to the manga, where he just saved him once on the island by giving him all the food. So as someone who's watched the anime versus someone who's only watched the live action, what would you actually prefer to see? Would you actually prefer to see the story where Zeph cannibalizes his own leg, or where that never happened and he lost his leg in the sinking of the ship? I'm not sure which I would prefer, to be honest. So after that backstory between Sanji and Zeph, we have the nice moment where Nami is actually reading a book to Zoro. Of course, it's happening a little bit quickly where she's really feeling attached because we know that she has a different agenda, but she obviously does care. And what's really nice about this, the detail I love, is the fact that she's actually reading Mont Blanc Norland's book. Now that's setting up for later episodes. I would assume maybe in season 2. Depends how fast they go. But that was really great too. And for the next big scene in this episode, I really need your help once again. I need your opinion, because I have very mixed feelings about Arlong arriving at Baratie. He's heard, obviously, that Luffy is somewhere in the area, tracked him down to Baratie because of information he got from the Tattletale, right? Buggy the Clown. And so, okay, I understand. They're trying to establish the relationship between humans and fishmen. That's why they create this interaction, which was much earlier in the story than we would have seen originally. I'm okay with that, but having Arlong go to Baratie, it means that Arlong basically has to fight Luffy, because Luffy's character is not to back down or to run away, as Nami suggests. Luffy has to fight. So that means Luffy has to already fight Arlong before he goes to Arlong's base. Do you think that was the right decision? Do you agree or disagree with that? I'm not sure. I feel like maybe it was wrong, but I also like the fact that Arlong shows his personality in front of the other humans. When they barge into the restaurant, he's obviously a pirate, he's obviously a bully, he's obviously kind of the big boss and very strong and no one can touch him. He obviously feels that even though most fishmen want to be on a level with the humans, but the humans look down on them, Arlong feels that the fishmen are superior, which is completely correct. That's big part of Arlong's motivation as a character. So I'm really happy at least they established that. I just don't know about doing it there. I don't think it's necessary for him to go to Baratie. Maybe the show runners, they just spent so much money building this restaurant and they just want to show Baratie some more. You can have the outside shots of Baratie with Arlong fighting Luffy. I don't know. It just seemed like too much change from the original story, and I'm not sure if it was actually necessary. Ooh, but if I'm going to criticize something like that, I have to give credit to another detail, which was just the transition when they first show Arlong arriving at Baratie and they're swimming in the water and you can see his dorsal fin sticking up. I like the fact that they're showing how fast they go. Fishmen, they swim so fast they can catch up to almost any ship. With regards to Luffy's fight with Arlong, I don't know. Don't you feel that's a little bit anticlimactic? Doing it in that moment, that's the first time, like when Luffy first finds Arlong or hears that Arlong's looking for him, it doesn't happen in the Baratie, so it just felt very anticlimactic that Luffy walked up and says, yeah, I'm here, let's fight. And then he quickly got his butt kicked. If I had to summarize my feelings about Luffy's fight with Arlong, it would be like looking at a menu in a restaurant. You see a really, really, really nice dish, but the dish comes and it doesn't taste as good, and it's half the size, and then by the time you're done, you just don't feel satisfied. Do you agree or disagree? Oh, and help me out with this one. After Nami leaves, Luffy has this conversation with Zoro. Now, I don't know if it's instructions from the script writers for Iñaki Godoy or if it's actually his impersonation of Luffy. But Luffy telling Zoro the crew is falling apart and looking almost sad about it, but kind of motivated and happy afterwards. But he needed kind of a pep talk from Zoro. It just doesn't feel like Luffy at all to me. And now, the number one thing that disappointed me in this episode. And I just can't get it out of my head. Please help me. Tell me, am I wrong? Do you have a different opinion? When Sanji says goodbye to Zeph, I thought it was going in the right direction. I really thought it was going in the right direction. You could see both the men, even though they kind of were acting always tough with each other, you know that they can care, that they really care about each other underneath their gruff exterior. It's kind of maybe a guy thing. And they have this strange like father-son relationship a little bit. But when they leave, you can see the emotions are starting to build up. But then Sanji has to bow down. This is a Japanese anime. It's an iconic moment in One Piece. You can't change any of that. Okay, Sanji doesn't do it on the dock. That's what he does in anime and manga as well. But doing it from the boat, I'm okay with that. I'm honestly okay with that. But Sanji has to bow down. That's one thing he does is he bows down with his face on the ground and he's crying as he thanks Zeph. And Zeph starts to cry as well, standing there. And all the cooks are standing there and they start to cry as well. It's this really emotional moment. Now, Zeph was the one who convinced Sanji he had to leave. Originally, it's actually the fighting cooks who convinced Sanji, but since they never introduced those, unfortunately, in this story, it makes sense that Zeph was the one who kind of pushed Sanji to go and follow his dream, the dream that they both shared, but Zeph can't do anymore because of maybe his injury. So this moment, it's just such an incredible missed opportunity for me. I was so disappointed. Sanji literally said goodbye with some tears in his eye, but he had one hand in a pocket and the other hand up. I'm speechless. I'm really speechless. I'm so disappointed by that. Is it that big of a deal to you? If you know the original, the source material, don't you feel like that was really disappointing? Let me know. But regardless, they're doing a fantastic job with this live action. As I've referenced many times, talking about Attack on Titan's live action, how bad that was, even though it was kind of cool in a weird way. They're doing a great job. I'm not complaining about that, but this is One Piece. We have to be critical. We have to be critical when it comes to One Piece. There is absolutely no excuse. Netflix, budget, they can get any kind of actor that they want for these roles. They can get any kind of scriptwriter. They have help from Oda himself. There is no excuse for skipping out on these scenes. So, am I overreaching? I don't know. But you tell me your opinion. Do you agree or disagree? Regardless, I really look forward to the next episode. There's some exciting things I'm expecting to happen. So I'll get to that right away. Right here on No Frontiers.